Welcome to Julie's Toolbox Talks podcast, your go-to resource for safe digging and protecting Illinois' underground infrastructure. Each episode will share practical tips, real stories, and expert insights to help you dig smart, stay safe, and keep your projects on solid ground. Brought to you by Julie, Illinois Facility Notification Center.
Hello and welcome to Julie's Toolbox Talks podcast, brought to you by Julie, the Illinois Facility Notification Center. I'm your host, Brian MacKenzie. Thanks for joining us. Today we are shining a spotlight on an organization that plays a critical role in safe digging across Illinois, the Illinois Commerce Commission. We'll explore what they do, how they enforce the law that keeps our underground infrastructure protected, and what real-world impact that enforcement has out in the field. I'm excited to bring in our guest today, Bill Daniel. Bill brings 30-plus years of utility damage prevention experience, including 28 years in locating and marking operations throughout Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. He currently serves as a manager of the Illinois One-Call Education and Enforcement at the Illinois Commerce Commission. Bill also was involved in the United States Air Force for 11 years as a law enforcement investigator. Welcome, Bill. I had no idea, all the years that I've known you, I had no idea that you were a law enforcement investigator for the, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't talk a lot about it, but yeah, it was a good experience. I think it kind of.
It explains, I've always fascinated how numbers people, I mean, you're a numbers guy. Full disclosure, guys, everybody on our podcast today, I've worked with Bill 25 of his 30 years out in the field. We've worked either together or for him in some fashion or the way. So I've invited him here today because I really feel that the ICC is crucial into what we do. So why don't you just tell our viewers, Bill, what is the Illinois Commerce Commission?
Okay, well, the Illinois Commerce Commission is actually a regulating body for a lot of the public utilities. My division, One Call Enforcement. We changed the name now. It's One Call Education Enforcement, since we're doing a little bit more education rather than just enforcement. The Illinois Damage Prevention Act designated the ICC as being the enforcing body of the act, and that's where this division was developed. I began about 5 years ago, came in as an investigator, and then we've got three investigators plus myself that cover the entire state for Julie enforcement. We're kind of a reaction.
Chicago? No Chicago?
No, we don't do the city of Chicago. Anything that the digger covers in Chicago, Cook County is out of our jurisdiction. So just wherever Julie's footprint is.
Gotcha. Understood. So the enforcement side, what are some of the most common violations that you see?
Well, we see violations on both sides, either facility operators or excavators. Facility operators, the primary issue that we have is just timeliness, failing to get to the tickets on time. Second to that would be just failing to accurately mark the facility if they do get there. For excavators, there's two major ones, and it's not having a valid ticket. That could mean they didn't call Julie at all, or they dug outside the extent, or the ticket expired, or they dug early, any variation of that. And then the other is just failing to use due care. They don't pothole. They bore under a gas line or a communication line without pothole, and they hit it. Or just, using mechanical equipment too close, within the tolerance zone. Tolerance zone's 18 inches. And you got folks that get a little wily out there and put a backhoe within that 18-inch tolerance and end up, having some conversations with us.
Yeah, one of the things that when I located that I saw in the field, and even today, is that the excavators, they don't go down to the depth of their proposed excavation. They stop at the first line that they see, and then they think, oh, that's it, 6 inches deep, and curl that bucket, and out comes a new one. We are not a state that removes the old utility facilities. So I could see where that would be one of the issues.
Yeah, that's another one that even though it's been in the act for a while, education on for excavators learning to do that. We'll get calls and say, I'm going down 6 feet. It's like, well, you still got to go down 6 feet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it just takes more education and making them aware of that responsibility.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's pro tip number one, ladies and gentlemen. If you are an excavator out here, if you're a homeowner, if you're a professional excavator, 18 inches either side of the mark to the depth of your proposed excavation is what you are required to hand dig or vacuum excavate. And we say vacuum excavate. Bill, does it require a locate request to use vacuum excavation?
Technically, no. But if you're excavating, you're usually potholing. When vac work's being done, it's usually potholing an existing facility. So 90% of the time, 99% of the time, the facility is already marked, and that's kind of what they're using the vac for. So
Yeah, the vacuum excavation is a great way. CJA has actually said it's one of the safest means of exposing a utility facility. And the only thing I want to caution everybody on you is before you go out and buy a brand new truck of a jet vac, please be very careful because the pressures on those can actually blow the coatings off the gas main, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of why you got the vacuum excavation. So be cautious, when you use those things too, because they pretty strong as well.
yeah, that's for sure.
You also brought up that they enforce both sides, and it always seems I always hear from excavators, well, the locators never get in trouble, and I just want to clarify that with our listeners today that you do in fact enforce both sides of the ball here. I mean, it's excavators as well as locators.
Yeah, that's correct. I would say probably over the past 3 or 4 years that the bulk of the violations are issued on facility operators. I think everybody's aware that the volume in the state, the ticket volume has increased over the past several years. A lot of fiber going in the ground, a lot of larger projects, and it's all resulted in timeliness issues. And basically over the last 3 or 4 years, we've assessed probably over $12 million in fines
Wow.
on both parties. So
That's a big number, big number. I'm glad you brought up the fiber work and the large projects because that's something that will never go away. Even when the law was kind of changed to help the locators and give them a little bit more ability to push back, and then we kind of changed the joint meet process to make it mandatory and for everybody to attend and with the ability to hand out the maps. And I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel about these large projects? I mean, do you think they're worth it? What's the advantages of pre-marking and giving these maps? Does it really and truly give a better locate?
I think so if it's used properly, and the way it's written in the act, how it defines what a large project is, and then what's required. I think if all parties involved, the excavators and facility operators, if they all play by the same rules, it's a great system. I mean, you can lay out. We've got X amount of footage we need to put in over the next 6 weeks. I need 1,000 feet a day. It can be really specific, but again, it really takes a buy-in from both parties to make that. And I think we probably need to tweak that a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more depth to make it a valuable tool for everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I see the value in it. I see the value with going to positive response. It's just getting through the bugs, getting through the nuances. It's still new. We're still in month 5, but I just wish if there was one thing that a listener could take away. If you're a member company and you've got these subcontractors you're wanting to hire and you want to put all this work in, please, 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 don't just throw that all on your subcontractors. Please take some initiative behind that. Do the advanced notice joint meet 6 to 8 months in advance. Let locators know what's coming out there. I'm going to tell you, I kind of view this a little bit differently, Bill. You same way you came with me, but you can kind of see what happens when there aren't enough locators out there. The locators really do make a difference. And when there aren't enough out there, things can come behind. When we see the storm of the fiber work that we have right now, trying to get these jobs scheduled and lined up can be pretty difficult.
Oh, for sure. And and I think there's been some recent changes in the act that kind of address that. I mean, like I said, you'd only put so many boots on the ground because there's only so many boots to fill. and you can only locate so much at one time. But I think some of the recent changes by not making the day of the call count, the beyond reasonable control areas, um, and requiring the joint meets. We spoke about that. Those are all some changes that were made that kind of impact the timeliness and gives that facility operators a little bit more time to get to them. So
Yeah, because in talking to some of the fiber operators, I mean, we're constantly trying to find that magic bullet. And I want everybody to know it's not just Illinois. This is in other 50 states. This is the same topic. It keeps coming up. And I'm not one to make excuses, guys. I don't want you to sit there and think, oh, it's another excuse. I wish people truly understood the amount of time that it took to make a locator. You just don't say, oh, there's your book. 2 weeks later, you're out. You're after. You're talking 6 months to a year, guys, to make a really good locator. And the reason I say a year is because you got to see it, smell it, touch it. I mean, it's an industry where it's going to smack you in the face one day, pat you on the back on another. I mean, it's a constant moving animal. It really, really is. And again, not looking for excuses, but I just want the people to know, your excavators out there, because I constantly hear, just go get another locator. There is no locator closet. I mean, Bill, you've dealt with it 30 years. What's your thought on that?
Well, that is true. I mean, like I said, there's got to be negotiation on both parts, especially with the fiber that's coming in. I think, and what I've read too, is that those folks are going to have some of the same issues with this bead work going on in 50 states. The availability of contract or excavators that can come in and do the work. I mean, we both know that in Illinois, there's a lot of out-of-state contractors that come in. But then you got the purchase of the conduit and the fiber. I mean, there's going to be a shortage of all that as well. So excavators are going to kind of feel kind of the same pain with trying to get all this stuff in at the same time as well. So
yeah, absolutely. It's just we're all very closely. It's one big group, really. I mean, damage prevention. It is a shared responsibility to both sides, as you have mentioned. Not only from the members and the locators, from the utility side and their members too, when they're doing work. We've got to figure out a way to work together because, again, the last thing I want to see is, your smaller mom and pops lose faith in the Julie system because they're not getting their marks on time. That's where I get a little bit upset because I don't want to ever see that happen. So I want the memberships to really take a look at these outer state excavator courses that we have, the in-state excavator courses that we have, take advantage of the in-person trainings that we do, get extra time as much as you can, because again, there are multiple organizations from out of state here in Illinois working currently, and they may think that we have the same regulations as Michigan as example, but with this large project process, it's something that you must be aware of when you dig in Illinois.
Yeah, and I think part of the B process was going to require anybody from out of state to take one of the modules from Julie, so they are at least formally aware of anything that might be different in Illinois than the state they're coming from, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, because you're going to find here in Illinois, guys, that the DPMs, the damage prevention manager for Julie, we really are involved. We're really out there. We really do want to help. I know other states they don't get involved as much, but again. We like to do that, so please don't ever think that you're out there and, gosh, I can't get anybody located. I got nobody to talk to. You have Bill and I, for guys. Bill is kind of the final straw that once you get to that point, but you do have resources out there, which brings me to a really good question because I hear this a lot. What do we tell the excavator that's out there doing everything right? The guy that's giving extra time, he's pre-marking the job sites, he's giving the maps, and he still can't get locates on time.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, that happens quite a bit. I mean, and we encourage them to continue to do the same. I mean, don't change their pattern. Make sure that they're following all the rules and all the established policies that are out there. Don't take any shortcuts. Make sure that they're doing what they have to do. We're working with, sometimes, we'll make a call to an excavator or to the facility operator, the project owner. And sometimes that gets a lot more action than filing reports. I mean, a lot of times me and my team, we don't just file a report and put out a violation. I mean, we make phone calls and we get a lot of reaction from just doing that. But like I said, worst case scenario, they give us a call and we initiate a case, and as I said, we try to make that conversation first, because by the time we get a case and we run the case, I mean, it might take us, a month, 6 weeks to get through a case. That doesn't get anybody out there paying on that facility today.
Right.
So, when somebody's really having issues, we try to reach out to that facility operator and say, you got an issue, why don't you go ahead and start working on it now while we're processing these. So at least we can kind of reduce the lack of locates for that excavator, and hopefully kind of reduce the number of cases on that facility operator as well.
I agree. It's you heard it here first, folks. They're not just, and that's the common misconception, I think, is the ICC, they're going to come out and find me. Again, we're all trying to get everybody digging. We're all trying to keep everybody safe. Julie has no authority power whatsoever. Again, I'm just educating and training. When I bring Bill into the mix, it's generally, and Bill's going to pretty much tell you, this is what should be done. But thank you for doing that, because again, we're all in this together. So let me ask you though, with all that, does enforcement help? Do you see changes when you have to enforce things?
I think so. I mean, not only, does it help, it's mandatory. It's required by the act. So there's a lot of things, we can't overlook. Sometimes, like I said, we get that you're just out here to do this and do that. And, number one is that the ICC, any penalties that we receive, they're all turned back over to you,
Right.
to Julie.
Julie.
The state does not keep any of that money. It's all sent in a grant to Julie for education and whatnot. So it's not like we don't get any pleasure out of this, and we don't make anything by doing this. I think that the enforcement is to kind of change bad behavior, and it can't eliminate it. I mean, because people are human; they're still going to keep doing what they're going to do no matter what.
Right.
But hopefully, there's enough of that. There's enough that we get into the weeds with them that eventually they do start changing some behavior. We have seen a reduction in excavator issues. As when we started out, I said most of our complaints and cases that we do are on facility operators. So excavators, seemed like they have improved over the past, few years that I've been here. So.
Yeah, I think you guys were tracking that at one point, damages throughout the year, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong. The years start to run together, but I think we're starting on that upward trend or downward trend. I can't remember which one or what. You're the numbers guy, but I think it was getting better as one of the charts that I saw you guys had.
Yeah. Yes. On the excavator side. Yeah. The excavator issues or complaints against excavators have dropped, pretty significantly over the years. So.
Yeah. I think once we get all this fiber in the ground, we get past that, we'll get on to the next thing, which appears to be water service replacements. So if we can get out in front ahead of that, if there's any plumbers on here today, when you're going to be doing replacing a lead line service, please don't call the entire property in. Please pre-mark those areas so you can get a timely locate, right? Because the locators are going to push back to you guys if you're going to say replacing a water service, locate entire property, right? So you want to narrow that down. Front of property, if the water service comes out the side, is the left or right side, whatever it is, just have those areas pre-marked, before. And with the ability now, guys, of being able to pre-mark with white paint stakes or flags, you can give a good verbal extent. Now you can upload those maps too, which that's a huge thing for me, again, because I'm a visual learner, guys. If you show me as a locator where you're wanting to dig on that property, and I got a duct run in the back and I don't have to locate that thing because that's going to take me 2.5 hours, I'm just going to get that much faster and get on to the next guy, and it may be your ticket. So keep that in mind. It's so crucial out there.
Yeah, I don't think excavators realize how important that is to reduce the size of the tickets. Yeah. Like you said, the standard used to be just locate the entire property, and they just didn't realize how much time that took for an excavator, for a facility operator to go do all that locating.
Yeah, it also leads me into one more pro tip I'm going to give you guys out here on the call today, that you need to be doing tickets on remote ticket entry, guys. It's going to be the new thing. Come December, we're going to have a more exciting announcement, which I'm going to hold that for now. But if you're not using remote ticket entry, if you're not doing these tickets online, please consider doing it. I'll give you an example. We received already in May, we had 3 days of over 10,000 tickets a day. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk amount. So if people are entering tickets in e-request, they're kind of waiting a little bit because it's got to go back up to the operator who has to fill the information out and then it's sent back. So if you guys want a quicker way to do this, RTE is it, because now you're going to be able to upload those maps. You're going to give a clear and concise verbal extent out there. You're going to see what members are on the bottom. I can't stress that enough. That's just another option. That's pro tip number 2. So that one for you. For our listeners out there, I want to end with a final question here of an upbeat moment. Do you have an example where you made a positive impact to an individual's life?
Well, I think everyone likes to think that they make an impact, other than my kids. I think the folks that I've worked with a lot of folks that have moved on to different things, including yourself. I'm not saying that I had a big part of that, but with the number of folks that, to the investigators that work for me now, used to work for me as well in contract locating.
Right.
A number of others have gone on to, damage prevention departments within other utilities. So I'd like to think that part of what maybe they learned from me or took away from me, kind of moved them in that direction. So,
right. 100%. So that's like I said, listeners, we've worked together with Bill. This is a very, again, tight-knit community of people. For the locators and anybody listening out here that thinks you want to get into locating, it's still a fantastic place to be because you get to meet some amazing people. You get to see the job is constantly changing out there. And you're right, Bill, it does there's been a lot of us that have moved on from that time and we're in positions where we can help. So I am very thankful, for the experience that you gave me over the years, because now I'm able to take those stories, those experiences, and I'm able to bring it to the Illinois Excavator. And that's a bright spot for me. So appreciate that. So, and to our listeners, thanks you for tuning in to the Julie Toolbox Talks. We hope today's conversation with the Illinois Commerce Commission gave you a better understanding of how enforcement and compliance work together to keep everyone safe. For more information and resources, visit juliebeforeyoudig.com. Stay safe, and as always, contact Julie before you dig.